Good morning to you. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Art Lewis Show as we continue to celebrate the 75th anniversary of WSGW Radio. Went on the air August 11th, 1950. And we continue by talking to folks that have been with the station for a long time or have been and were with the station, but none longer than the guy sitting in front of me today, because he is the longest serving employee of WSGW Radio and our sister stations, and he is the one and the only Terry Henney. Good morning. Should
I get off the defibrillator right now so I can talk here for the next hour?
No, you're going to talk for the next hour. I'm just going to leave the room.
Okay. Well, we're going to open our phone lines now.
Yeah, well, we're going to do that anyway, I think, maybe.
It'd be a lot of fun.
But I want to start fresh out of Michigan State. You come here, right?
Yep.
And you came into sales. Did you always want to do sales?
No. I wanted to be a television producer. And my major at Michigan State was television and radio. They wouldn't allow you to declare a minor, but I had a minor in business administration, marketing, psychology, and took a couple meteorology classes, but that was about it. I had 2 scholarships. So for the first 2 years at Michigan State, they were totally paid for. I had a math scholarship and a chemistry scholarship, and I never took a class in either one. So after 2 years, I lost those scholarships.
I had guidance counselors talking about my math and chemistry prowess. This is why I went after chemical engineering when I didn't want it.
Yeah, there you go.
I recognize that.
No, I don't know all the trace elements. I don't know all that stuff.
So you come here and you end up in sales. You start in sales.
Start in sales. Matter of fact, I interviewed for the job. It was in January of 1971. They posted right after the Christmas holiday. I saw it, and of course I was in my senior year and looking forward to what am I going to do. My wife Sharon had signed a teacher's contract down in Hazlitt, so she was ready to walk right into a job beginning in the fall. So I thought, well, maybe sticking around Lansing, but then this opportunity came up. So I came up. I stopped over at that time, WKNX, and said hello to a couple people that I knew.
At the time.
Dick Fabian and Bob Dyer, that I knew real well. And then decided that I'd just slide over to TV5 because there were a couple of folks that I was acquainted with, and just said hello and said
then
that
you had to go out in hinterlands.
Yes, out in Indiantown. And then stopped up at the Mason building and talked to Bill Loringer, who was the sales manager at that time, and he introduced me to Robert Phillips, who was the general manager. I remember those days very fondly. And
me too.
About 2 days later, I got a letter. So they must have written it that afternoon for me to get the letter 2 days later. Said that your application's been accepted and we want you to start March 1st. Well, I couldn't do that because I still had one more term at Michigan State. And I still had committed to working for Richard Estelle, who was the station manager, general manager of WKAR, AM and FM, which is still operating today. And so I just told him, no, I couldn't do that. He said, well, when do you graduate? And I said, June the 20th. So he said, okay, June the 21st, we'll see you at 8:15. So that was it. That's how we made it. I was very fortunate because my dad let me, we're farm, dairy cattle, 3,000 acres at that time. Up in the Thumb in the Bayport, Pigeon, Caseville area. Obviously a lot of responsibilities, but a friend who became a friend because he broadcast basketball games for WLEW in Bad Axe, James Muhlenbeck, who is and was related to the Muhlenbecks here in Saginaw. Yeah. And he let me work a couple nights a week at the Bad Axe radio station after I did my chores. And then I signed the radio station on WLEW Sunday mornings at 5 a.m. So I had that opportunity when I was 15 years old. And I had my farm permit. You had to be 14 to get that. So I could drive 25 miles from the farm. Well, Bad Axe was 20 miles. So I was good. And after that, Muhlenbeck got me the job at WKAR because he was good friends with Dick Estelle. And what a great opportunity. I know you've had a lot of terrific opportunities in your lifetime. That's what life is all about, is opportunities.
Shapes you.
Dick Estelle introduced me to the crew at WKAR and allowed me to do some board work there. I signed 90.5, which is still on today, WKAR FM. I signed that station on Sunday mornings at 5 a.m. to be bored to death with music from the Philharmonic Orchestra, at 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. No, but it was all platters, all 1 7/8, so they barely moved. And, I sat there for 8 hours.
Well, it's interesting because being a Jewish kid from the Bronx, every radio station I worked at in the early years, I volunteered to do Sunday mornings so the Christian staff could go to church. And little did I know I was going to get a lot of religion, because Sunday mornings at most of these stations were all religious shows.
Well, my job at the Bad Axe radio station, I was amazed when I got my first check. I thought I was really doing it. I was getting $1.40 an hour. But at that time, it did pay for the gas.
Yeah, got your gas, right?
Yeah, gasoline was just fine. But no, that's how I started. Started in radio, and at WKAR, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of really interesting people. And, of course, we can talk about that later on, because the people interest is what I really enjoyed. But, like I said, I really wanted to be a TV producer.
I wanted to be a TV
chance.
director.
Yeah.
That was my goal. It's interesting how we diverge
Yeah.
and away we go. All right, we're going to take a break, come back. We're going to talk to Terry about his time here at WSGW and ending up with the agricultural program that he has, Farm Service 790. And we're going to take some calls, too. If you have some memories of Terry and agriculture and things of that nature, give us a call and chat with him at 989-752-6111 as we celebrate 75 years of WSGW.
Gotta go.
All right, we're back with you here on WSGW. In studio with me is Terry Henney as we discuss the 75th anniversary of WSGW and many of the things that happened during the many years we've been here. So you came here as a salesperson right out of college. You've always been in agriculture, but how did you become an agricultural broadcaster?
When I came in June, and toward the tail end of July, first part of August, our tradition was always to go, the radio station's tradition, go to the Saginaw County Fair.
Right.
And at that time, the fair was starting the weekend after Labor Day and going for 10 days. And we had a booth down there. We had in the Merchants Building representation there, and we had this Volkswagen bus.
Yep.
And it had a studio in it.
Yeah.
with turntables, everything. It had a plug on the side, and it had a little patch on the side where you could put the Michigan Bell
phone line
and everything else. And Gene Budd had a pole for us right outside the Ag building.
Mm-hmm.
And Fred Krell would do his show starting at afternoon drive, 5 o'clock, and he'd play music up until about 7 or 8 o'clock. And he needed some help carrying some stuff out there and setting up the Volkswagen bus because evidently it had been fixed and it wasn't fixed properly. So I went out there, and Gene and I started talking, Gene Budd, and he just made the comment that he says, you guys probably should do something a little bit more than just the Saginaw Fair when it comes to farm, because everybody comes here looking for you guys and listening to Fred. And he said, Fred doesn't really strike me as the kind of guy that could read grain prices, especially poultry egg futures. It just didn't fit right. So Fred laughed, I laughed, and then we started doing some things together. And Fred evidently said something to Bob. And Bob goes, oh, that's funny. Okay. And evidently some of Bob's connections over the next several months made comments about, hey, I understand you got a farmer working for you now. And he says, oh, yeah, he seems to be able to sell stuff. And one of the people that talked to him was a gentleman by the name of Tom Kennedy. And Tom Kennedy was the Wicks Agriculture. And Wicks Agriculture had that big building, which is now right next to 675.
The Commerce Center now.
Used to have the big W on it. Mm-hmm. And Tom's office was right on the top floor facing downtown. And Bob mentioned something to Bill Loringer and said, hey, you think you could sell a farm show? And Loringer goes, gee, I don't know. We got enough guys around here. Well, there was a guy by the name of Ted Lazinski who operated Stanton Seed and Supply. And Bill got a hold of him and said, yeah, what do you think? And Ted goes, well, I think that might be a good idea for you guys to do something. He says, because Fred is doing a show now. It's called The Little Show, which runs for about 15 minutes after Mike Roy's cooking thing, which comes after, let me see, what was the guy's name? Art Linkletter.
Yep.
And so they just bounced the idea off, and I said, oh, I can read some grain futures. So we started doing that. So that's how it got started. And then obviously all we had to do was do it. And then you started getting advertisers left and right, and probably other than Tom Kennedy, who told Bob, he says, all right, I'm going to write a check for X amount of dollars. And at that time, that was 5 figures, big 5 figures. And he said, okay, this ought to get you for the next 3 years of doing a farm program. He says, I'm going to sponsor it. All you got to do is read my commodities. That's all you got to do. You can do whatever else you want to do, but that's what I want to do. And then it just took off after that, whether it's farm machinery, whether it's folks like Star of the West, Dick Kraft, who was a very good friend, and Star of the West is still with us today. Matter of fact, a lot of those advertisers that started on our farm program, full-blown farm program, in it was 72, but 73 was probably where we really took off and did everything. A lot of those advertisers that started then are still with us today.
Yeah, and then, back then, too, you had competing sugar companies.
Yep.
In Monitor in Michigan, you had multiple sugar discussions.
Oh, yeah. And we had Cooperative Extension. Michigan State usually supplied a lot for us. Ray Vassold, who was the ag agent. Funny story.
Steve Poindexter for years.
Oh, yeah. Steve, Norm Brown was after Ray Vassold, then Steve Poindexter. Steve is still, he's retired, but he's still
active.
Active and stuff like that. But The funny story about Ray and his relation will probably agree with me that Ray came in with a 5-minute tape every Monday morning to play on Fridays. When we approached him with the idea of, hey, put the tape away, just come on Fridays and do it. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No way. You got the tape, play it. Well, I called him up the one day. It was Thursday afternoon. I said, Ray, got a little favor. That tape accidentally got erased. And I don't really know what to do because listeners really depend on that. Could you please stop in, and do it? And he did. He said, okay. Well, he realized how easy it was. And after that, he was on every Friday, and we kept that tradition for years.
Yeah.
Cooperative Extension every Friday.
Till he retired, really.
Yeah. And then Norm Brown came in and very happily did it for quite a few years. And then, of course, Steve came in. It's something that we really appreciated from Extension. A lot of things have changed down at Michigan State. Cooperative Extension isn't like what it used to be. But at that time, Extension was, if any farmer wanted anything to know about anything, Cooperative Extension, the agents were the ones that were contacted, and every county had Extension agents at that time.
Oh, yeah, and homemakers and people that dealt with food safety, and they had all kinds of people to talk to at the Extension.
Well, and what's fascinating about it, too, we talk about the commercial side, the sales side. Made a lot of friends right off the bat in 1971. My first client that I had on the air was Foot Support Shoes. They were in the Bancroft Hotel building. And the reason why they bought advertising, they bought a schedule for $71.30. I'll never forget it. And Ham and Frank bought that because my grandfather bought all his shoes from Foot Support Shoes. So they were going to support the grandson. And when I walked in the door, Vince Picard and Frank was with us for a little bit longer, Frank Bremer, and a fella called Hal Shore.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Left on the Friday, and I walked in on the Monday. And I had to take over. And those were some big shoes at that time.
Oh, yeah.
To take over the advertising list that they had. Hal Shore was such a creative individual, and a lot of those radio jingles that we wish we had today, he made those. He went with a company called Pepper Tanner. I believe they were out of Chicago at that time.
Were they Chicago or Dallas?
They were in Chicago because Hal was working, but still living up here.
Oh, okay.
And Hal had a marvelous voice, and of course his son Dave inherited that voice. And of course Dave, unfortunately, we lost him back a few years ago, but he epitomized his dad. I mean, he was his dad up and down. But just to meet all of those folks, the Provenzanos, the Liakonaws, a lot of the Garbers, the McDonald's. I mean, Hal did 2 jingles for the Drapers. One was for Saginaw, and one was for the Bay City location. One was Reed Draper, what a great, great guy, and one was D. Draper, what a great, great guy. They had, I don't know how many different versions there were. It was a comedic type, back and forth type thing, 2 voice. But those jingles were, I don't think, I know Morley's, we had a jingle for them that we used. I know Gary Fondrick at Westside Decorating, we were looking at a jingle for him at that time. He was one of my first contacts. And again, here's Westside Decorating still with us today. And that was back in 1972. when I had the chance to work with him.
All right, we're going to take a break. Come back. We're talking to Terry Henney as we celebrate our 75 years of broadcasting at WSGW. And speaking of one of the names we just talked about, McDonald, let me talk about Quick Lane Freeland on McDonald Ford property. They say it's been a tough year for people with allergies, and I think anybody that's got them knows that's true. And Quick Lane has an answer to keep you healthy while you're driving. It's called FrigiFresh. And here's John from Quick Lane to tell you all about it.
FrigiFresh. Hi.
And we're back, continuing our celebration of the 75th anniversary of WSGW, talking to Terry Henney right now, the longest-serving employee of the company. And, it's funny, we were talking about some of the commercials back then. Next hour, I get to read a commercial from a client, one of the first commercials I ever read when I got here in the 70s. Sanitary mattress.
Sanitary mattress.
Been around forever.
Yes. Dennis, it works. Let's just put it that way. The thing that I like about the radio station, and the reason why I've been here as long as what I've been through, it does what we say it's going to do. And that's probably the easiest sales that you could ever have, is when you're selling something that works. And the radio station does. It always has, and it always will. Like, when you started, the thing about WSGW was always, it was like the newspaper, in that every hour was another page. Mm. And if you wanted editorial, you went from the desk of Bob Phillips, or you went to talk, whatever. If you wanted sports, we had sports.
Thing about it, you think about this. You're in your 70s. I'm in my early 80s. We're still here. I can speak for me. I can't speak for you, but I don't have any designs going anywhere right now.
No.
I remember that our previous station manager, Shannon, took me out to lunch one day and said, well, just for planning purposes, what's your retirement plans? I said, expire to retire.
Well, and it all goes back, and I'm sure a lot of folks realize this after a while. If you like what you're doing, why walk away from it?
It's not like work.
No, it's not like work anymore. Yes, we have responsibilities. Yes, we need to take care of things, but all in all, it's fun to do that. And what's more gratifying than ever is to have advertisers on the air with us as long as what we have. I don't think there's any other radio stations around that can actually say, other than maybe a station in Detroit, that can say that the advertisers on the air today were on the advertisers of 40, 50, 60 years ago. I had one client who bought the 7:30 news every morning, and he was on for, while I was here, over 20 years. And he changed his commercial twice in the year, from home heating oil to gasoline. In that order. Gasoline in the summer, home heating oil in the winter. And that was it. And all you had to do was say the name, and everybody just automatically knew where he was and what he was doing. He had that name recognition that came from frequency again and again and again. You just automatically remembered. And the other one was Listen to the Missus.
Yeah.
Back then, Les Forrester was doing the Missus when I started. Fred came in a little bit later on. When I started in radio, up in Bad Axe of all places, in the summertime, I had an air shift during the week. And a show that I did was called Ladies Line, which is the same thing as what Listen to the Missus did, from 1 to 2 every afternoon. Probably my most frequent caller was my mother, because she always told me what I did wrong.
Of course.
But that was the nature of the thing. People called, they had suggestions. You read something, and they'll call you up and say, well, I had this experience. And it was the easiest thing to sell an advertiser on. And probably my list of advertisers that I had at that time all of them were in Listen to the Missus, and then they bought other things on the show as well.
We're going to talk more about that later because Sue Smith's going to be coming in here at 10.
But it was a show that it defined WSGW when it came to the talk.
And it was interesting because when I came here in February of '74, within a few days maybe, I was saddled up with Fred.
Yeah.
I was put in as the sidekick. I'd be searching through the cards. He'd be talking to people on the phone, and I'm sitting there going through the cards and looking for stuff, and he's writing notes in his handwriting you can't read, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was unique. It was different.
We had some really colorful people that were on in the mornings, the middays, the afternoons. Richard Dick Hamill was his name. I mean, we played a lot of music on SGW when I first started.
It was a music station when I came.
And before I came, I mean, folks like Ken Clark, Don Andrews was on. There were a lot of individuals that you go way back, and some of the relatives are around here to this day.
Yeah, it's part of the history. All right, another break, and then we'll be back as we chat with Terry Henney here at WSGW, celebrating our 75th anniversary on air.
It could be the best years of
Hi, we're back with you in studio. Terry Henney, longest-serving employee of WSGW Radio. I have a have a text here from an official who will name unnamed because I don't have permission to use his name. One of my favorites is Fred's birthday banana cake. Remember getting the recipe from Listen to the Missus at my office in 1984. Oh, yeah.
And that was after he got the Better Than Sex cake.
Probably.
That was, yeah.
There's Carl in Saginaw. Carl, good morning.
Good morning, Art. Hello, Terry. This isn't really about the history of the radio station, but I'd really like to know this question about weather. For living in Saginaw for years, it seems like we see these storms. They go to the north of us, and the rain goes to the south of us.
There's your meteorology questions.
Yes, and I've heard weathermen talk about this, and they say, no, it just seems that way. That, Saginaw gets as much rain as anybody else. It just seems that way. Well,
we're limited on time here, Carl, so let me get a response.
Okay, yeah.
Because I've always understood it was because we're a valley, but I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the topography of an individual region, because clouds, they weigh so much, and how you get weight is from gravity, right? So what happens is a cloud that has moisture in it weighs so much, depending on how much moisture it has, and it follows the topography. It's up so high, given the weight of the cloud. Well, when the topography goes up or it goes down, the cloud follows the topography, so it will go up or it will go down. And the tendency of a cloud that has to move like that, going up and going down, will break it up. So what you're seeing is, and Art's right, I mean, Saginaw Valley is a low area. So if a storm system is coming from, let's say, the west, the tendency is for it to break up. If it's coming from the south or the southwest, the tendency is for it to hold together a little bit more because you're looking at a flatter area along that I-69 corridor and Flint. If it comes from the north, the tendency for it is to stay together to a certain extent because, again, it's coming into and around Saginaw Bay, Bay County, Aranac County, those counties, and it has a tendency to hold together a little bit longer. So that, in a nutshell, is the layman's philosophy for the day.
Carl, I got to let you go for time here, but no, I got to let you go.
Does Saginaw get
real quick?
Does Saginaw get as much rain as everybody else, or get less?
It does. It actually gets more,
but less severe storms.
What the drought map shows.
Well,
That's not what the drought
all
map
right.
shows.
Well, you asked the question, you got the answer. All right, buddy, got to run.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye now.
All right, take care.
Here's Mike in Thomas Township. Mike, good morning.
Hey, good morning. I just wanted to talk about when I first met Terry. I think it was at the Saginaw Fair, and I think I was with Ivan Sparks. That was my
Oh, yeah.
my son's grandfather-in-law,